whenever there's something going on that kind of connects the St. Louis teams, Chicago teams, especially baseball, there's only one guy to call, and that would be David Kaplan, otherwise known as the Capman, at the Capman on Twitter. Also NBC Sports Chicago, ESPN Radio, and he's always such a great guy because he never says no. Sure, what time you want me on? Cap, I turn to you again, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. I threw up knowing that Willson Contreras is wearing that dirty birds on a bat, but you got a good one, man. I think I've told you the story. I know I've told others. I have a special needs son, and he's been amazing to him. And we had dinner with him in September, and I was texting with him yesterday, and he said, "Just tell me when you're coming to St. Louis, and we'll go to dinner, and I'll leave you tickets." So I will be coming to Busch Stadium with my son Brett, and I'm really saddened that this really wonderful player is going to be playing for our arch rivals and not for my Cubs. But you got a good one.
Well, Dave, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but the solution is that you have to turn Brett into a Cardinals fan now, and there is a reason to do that.
That will never happen. That will never happen. No shot. There are 3 teams on my list that we don't cheer for. That's number 1, the St. Louis Cardinals, number 2, the Green Bay Packers, and number 3, Notre Dame football.
Well, okay. I'll give in. Okay. Hey, listen, that's a great story, and I do remember you telling us that. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into. I had doubts maybe it would happen, whether the Cardinals wanted to spend the money or maybe 5 years or maybe they would want to trade for someone. I had some doubts for a while, but I'm glad they did what they did. Tell Cardinals fans from a baseball standpoint. We'll talk about the personal standpoint. Tell Cardinals fans from a baseball standpoint what they're getting and what they can expect from Willson Contreras.
You're going to get a guy who plays incredibly hard. He'll play through injury. He's just a warrior. He's going to play with this passion, and he loves big moments, and he's going to get big hits in big spots. And while he may not be the greatest tactician behind the plate, he is got the best arm in baseball. He will control a running game. So I think the robo-umpires are coming sooner rather than later, so the whole framing thing will become a non-issue. He's going to be a guy that will really tick off your opponents because he plays with an edge, man. He does. And, I remember Clint Hurdle hated Javi Baez and Willson Contreras because they play with this, I guarantee it, prior to him joining your club, there were Cardinal fans that couldn't stand Willson pounding on his chest and doing all these gyrations and all that. And I'm going to miss that happening for us at Wrigley because that guy can flat out play baseball.
Cardinals need that. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm not saying they're all a bunch of wimps. I'm not. I just call them nice guys because they are. But you need, listen, one of the things about Molina retiring, and it was past time for him to retire, but that guy, every day he was in the major leagues, he played with that edge that you just described in speaking about Contreras. And in that way, for sure, he is the rightful successor to Yadier Molina, because to lose Molina and also lose that maniacal dedication to compete and win and to not hesitate to challenge the opponent, try to make him uncomfortable, whatever it may be, in your face all the time, just never backs off. They can't afford to lose that just because Molina walked out the door and he's retiring. They're going to get that in Contreras, and I think Cardinals fans better appreciate that because I don't think they quite get it. He is Yadier Molina's match when it comes to that temperament, that competitive temperament.
He is. He's 100%. Now, look, Yadier Molina is going to go into the Hall of Fame. He is. He's a great baseball player. I'm not telling you Willson Contreras is, Yadier Molina in his prime or going to the Hall of Fame. But I will tell you, you needed a catcher. All you did was give up money. You didn't give up your best prospects to go get somebody. And I think there are going to be, summer nights and summer days where you're going to be watching the game or you're going to be sitting there at Busch Stadium and you'll be like, wow, my glad that dude's on our side now. He is fun to watch.
Dave Kaplan with us. And, Dave, one of the things I did today, I was talking about it before you came on, I wanted to go back and find as much as I could about Cubs pitchers and what they had to say about Contreras. And I do know that in our business, I don't have to tell you, my friend, sometimes they kind of tell us what they want to hear. You know, sometimes they don't want to say anything bad, and they'll kind of skirt the issue. But what I was struck by reading this testimony, if you will, from Lester and Hendricks and John Lackey even, Marcus Stroman from this past year. I mean, they couldn't say enough good things about him. I mean, Jon Lester even credited him with convincing him to reduce the number of fastballs because he said, you're throwing too many fastballs. Your cutter's great. You got to throw that more. And Lester said, I took his advice, and he was absolutely right. And then I hear this things, and some Cardinals fans are latched on. It's like, well, he doesn't prepare, and he doesn't know how to handle pitchers, and he can't do this, and he can't do that. Look, no one that I saw there in Chicago on that pitching staff, maybe there was a few guys that didn't care for him. I don't know. They seemed to be pretty happy with him behind the plate, and I don't think they were lying. I mean, Kyle Hendricks, correct me if I'm wrong, when he was talking about Contreras before the trade deadline this past summer, he got emotional talking about what Contreras means to him. So I'm just going to call BS on all this gossipy stuff and just watch what he does, but keeping in mind what all these great Cubs pitchers had to say about him.
Well, I'll give you this one example. Look, people can go back and pull numbers up. They'll go, well, this guy has a much better ERA when he throws to Yan Gomes or over Willson Contreras. Okay, maybe that's right with certain guys. Maybe. I will tell you this. When David Ross retired, Jon Lester would only pitch to David Ross. That was his personal catcher. So when we signed him away from he went from Boston to Oakland at the trade deadline, finished the season with Oakland, and then hit free agency and picked the Cubs over the Red Sox and the Giants and all these others. David Ross signed 2 days later, and that was his personal catcher. When David Ross retired, guess what? Jon Lester had his pick of who he wanted, and he threw to Willson Contreras. Jon Lester, he may not. It'll be close. He may get to the Hall of Fame. I'm going to trust Jon Lester when he said, I need my own catcher, and I want that guy doing it. Does he need to be better in certain areas? We all do. Absolutely. Every day you get off the air, I get off the air, I'm like, I could have done that better, or I could do this better. You know when you've had a good show or a bad show. This kid is a worker. This kid is a beast. And I think now, armed with this contract and the distraction of why ever the Cubs did not want to keep him here, that's in the past. Now it's on. Willson, there's your $87.5 million. You're going to the defending division champs. You are going to an amazing baseball city. And now let's go. And I think you're going to love them.
You know, when the Cardinals, I'm talking about John Mozeliak, and our guest is my friend, and he's such a great guy, and he's at ESPN Chicago Radio and then NBC Sports Chicago. Follow him on Twitter at the Kapman, Kapman. Listen, when John Mozeliak reached out, they started almost kind of within the family in that Jose Quintana was a Cardinal recently, and they loved him even though he signed with the Mets. They said, well, what do you think about Contreras? Should that be our guy? And he said, absolutely. I love working with him. And I had some rough times in Chicago, but it wasn't because of him. He was a great friend. He was very supportive. He tried to help me on everything. He's a great dude. Go get him. Then they called Jon Lester, and Jon Lester tells Mo and tells Ali Marmol. Lester says, What are you asking me this for? Go sign him. What? I mean, you got to go sign this guy. I love this guy.
Right.
And Jon Lester's not a BS guy, man. He's a straight shooter. And he, a source close to Mo told me he couldn't have been more adamant and emphatic about, yes, this is your guy. Trust me. Go get him. Then at some point they had a heart-to-heart with Yadier Molina. He said, if you could do this, do that, what would you do? And he said, I would choose Contreras. That's the guy I want to succeed me. I mean, case closed, and all this like underlying negativity about him. Case closed. If Yadi says that and Jon Lester says that, it's over. Game's over. Right?
Game over. John, I can tell you, having dealt with John for 6 years here, Jon Lester, John is not a BS guy. John will tell you, you might not like the answer, but he's going to give you exactly what he thinks. And he would not have lied to John Mozeliak and Oliver Marmol. And I talked to Willson the day he had his interview or his meeting with Mo and with Ollie Marmol down in Florida because he lives in Orlando. And I talked to him, and I said, how did it go? Cap, it went amazing. And when you guys said to him, you know, we have a Hall of Fame catcher who's retiring, and we want you to succeed him, it was done. No, never mind the Astros. They could have offered the same contract. Maybe they did. Once he heard that, done. It was really cool.
Yeah, he's got a playerstribune.com piece up, which is really good. It dropped during the show, so I haven't had a chance to really read it and absorb it yet. I've just read here and there, and you know, it seems like this is a good thing. I think the Cardinals challenged him too. They said, "We think you're capable of doing this, that. You have to be a leader. We want you to be a leader. We want you to take over." And it seems that meant the world to Contreras to hear that, you know. And I think he loves the challenge of that. And I just think
I think they also challenged him. Hey, here's what we've heard. We've heard your intensity can get over the top at times. We have a culture here in St. Louis. Here's what we expect. If you can't live up to that, just tell us and we'll move on. You're going to love this guy. You are.
Cap, one more thing, man, because I appreciate your time. You've told us a personal story about the kind of dude away from baseball that Willson Contreras is. I've seen snippets here and there about how heavily involved he is with different groups in Chicago, whether you want to call them charitable groups or community groups or whatever. He gets in deep and really does the work and really puts in the time, and it's not just a ceremonial thing. Is that accurate? Is he's one of these guys, because I know he's got a big heart, is he one of these guys that really, really, really wants to be part of the community and help people?
100%. 100%. And for people that, I know the audience changes every 5 minutes, I won't take a lot of your time. My special needs son, that's his guy. He has the Contreras City Connect jersey and all of it. And when Willson and I got sideways because I was so critical of Quintana, that he was mad at me, and we got into it. And then we cleared the air, and from that point on, 4 years later, he calls me in 2021, hey, do you have a special needs son? Yes. Am I his favorite player? Yes. Well, I'm not going to the All-Star game this year. My parents are coming in from Venezuela. We're going to be 5 minutes from your house. You bring your son, Brett, but you're coming as my friend, not as a media guy. And we're going to have dinner together, and you're going to hang out with me. We were there for 3.5, 4 hours, and he was amazing. First thing, hey, Brett, I brought you a game-used jersey and a bat. Hey, Brett, do you have any questions you want to ask me? And I'm like, oh, God, Brett has no filter. Where is this going to go? And he goes, why does our team stink, Willson? And he goes, that's a really good question, Brett. And he was awesome. And to watch him interact with underprivileged or handicapped kids in the dugout that I've seen, yeah, he's the real deal, man.
How old's your son, man?
My son's 28.
Oh,
He's
gosh.
28 years old.
Well,
so, yep,
if I got a Contreras Cardinals jersey when they're printed, and I mailed it to you and your son, would you allow him to wear that, even behind closed doors in the Capman household? Would you allow him to wear that?
Zero chance. Zero.
That's why you're great. Hey, let me know when you're in town to do a SLU basketball game. But anyway, I love you, and I appreciate you very much for giving us all this generous time, Cap. Thank you, man.
Dude, you're the best. You know what I think of you. So anytime you need me, call.
All right, that's our friend Dave Kaplan. Jim Hewer, I know we got to take a break. He never is every time he's on, it's delightful to talk to him. I mean it.
It is.
And I've had people at first, when at my old radio station, I started running Cap on anytime there was a Cubs-Cardinals thing, Blackhawks thing, whatever. And people say, why do you have that Chicago guy on all the time? And nobody wants to hear him talking about, he's saying we, like about the Cubs, or he's saying like, yeah, I'm going to come down for that series, and I'm already feeling sick about having to look at that birds on the bat. And, Cap does it just to have fun. He's one of the more warm-hearted guys out there, but he's funny, and he plays up the rivalry, and he does it in a fun way. So I would just be getting blasted on the text message line because it's like, why do you always bring him on? I can't stand this guy. And then it just sort of happened. There was a big series coming up, and for whatever reason, we couldn't make connections. I didn't have him on. All of a sudden, it changes. Like, he gets on my nerves, but where's that Cap guy? He's funny. I like him,
Yep.
And Mrs. Burney, who I believe is still listening downstairs, she even said, unsolicited one time, she says, man, Cap is great. I love when he's on. And he is great. And so Cardinals fans would be mad at him. The only thing I would politely ask, I get it, why if you're not familiar with him, he could at first annoy you. I get that. I do. But just give it some time. He's great. And he's awesome about talking when you have a Cardinals related thing that somehow is connected to the Cubs. Awesome to talk to him. But he had that personal experience. He has it still with Contreras. So I thought he could actually really instill a lot of perspective about the kind of guy that Contreras is. Because from what I can tell, man, high marks across the board.
That's grade A number one. You're 100% correct. And I did like that he said, nah, there's no chance he's wearing the jersey. It's all good. I like that.
I want to somehow, like, stir this up. I want to get his son, like, some kind of great Cardinals gear or something. And I want to see if Cap can really say, no, you can't put that on. Because he wouldn't do that. So I have to stir it up by trying to be like an undercover secret agent or something.
Maybe we'll send the first Willson Contreras Cardinal bobblehead up there to his house. What do you think?
I think he can put it in his bedroom.
Yeah.
It's not like he's parading it in public, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's what we'll do.